everyone, this is Gail from Rainbow Food Rocks, and I'm here to make a recipe from my recipe book with you. Today I am making the quinoa kind of mock beef kale. And so what I have done is I have substituted quinoa in lieu of beef. So I used to make this with beef, and now I am making it with quinoa. And so the first thing that I did was I went ahead and made a vegetable broth. And I did that in my slow cooker, and I took the ends of the vegetables that I was cutting up all week long from my CSA from Sing Meadows, and then I put that in with some nettle salt and some pepper, and I sifted out the vegetables, and I retained the broth, and I cooked the quinoa. I soaked the quinoa for a night beforehand, and then I cooked it in the broth. So this is already cooked and chilled and ready to go. And then instead of taking my sweet potatoes, which I did receive in my CSA, as a shortcut, because I'm actually trying to sprout those sweet potatoes to grow them in my potato bin, as a shortcut, what I have done is I have gotten some organic sweet potato canned and used that, and it's already pureed. Now the longer way of doing it, and the other way that you can do it if you're growing your own potatoes, is to peel the sweet potatoes, put them in your slow cooker, and do that for about 4 hours on low, and then they can cook, sometimes 5 hours, it depends, and then you can mash them with potato masher. So there are two ways of doing things. Actually, there are always so many different ways of doing something. The next thing is I made sure to slice my onion. So I already have my onion sliced up. And the beauty about my book is I have the ingredients listed, and then I have the instructions with a plan ahead and a once ready section. So the plan ahead goes over how I planned ahead for the quinoa and the sweet potatoes, and the pages that you can find my ways of doing it, although you're welcome to do it your own way. And then I have the next instruction, which was slicing the onions for this recipe. And then bell peppers. So normally, and I have only one bell pepper growing in my garden right now, normally I would take the bell peppers and I would slice them up, and I would take out the seeds. I would retain the seeds and hold on to them to sprout in my garden. And I would take out the ribs inside, I think is what you call them, and then I would save those for a broth, and then I would just use the pepper parts and I would chop them up. As a shortcut, because remember there's always more than one way, you can just buy them frozen, already cut, and so these are organic, mixed, already cut. The next thing is de-stemming the kale, and if you've never done that before, it's a little tricky. You want to make sure to take your knife along the stem on both sides, pull out the stem, and then chop up your kale. So I used my CSA from Sing Meadows, Sing Farms in Tempe, Arizona, and I have the purple and the green. You've seen me come on here making salads with this, and I'll have more that I'll make with anything that's left over. We'll go ahead and make a salad as one last recipe for this week. And I have green olives. So these ones are the Lindsay Naturals green olives, and I do have all the different brands that I personally used for this recipe book, although some of those brands have changed. I have all those listed on my website. I did change my website, so I did put on private a lot of information because I was thinking of doing some new things next year. But for now, I believe it's still on there, and if you're questioning a brand, you can always email me at info@rainbowfoodrocks.com. So this is the Lindsay Naturals medium. This one does not say organic. I was unable to find the green in the organic, but then you can see how lovely these are. Yum. Okay, so swallow that. The next thing, if your olives have pits, you want to make sure to take out the pits. I just wanted to say that, is to peel and slice an avocado. And I went ahead and did it last night. Now the thing about avocado is it does brown quickly. So you can see I already peeled and sliced some, but they are kind of brown. I use them for my quinoa bowl, which is another recipe in my recipe book. So I have another avocado that we can chop up if that's not enough for today. And what we're pretty much doing is making this quinoa kale kind of dish, and then we're going to put it over the sweet potatoes. And the sweet potatoes is what gives it the sweetness that makes it taste really, really nice. So the first step once ready, is to place the quinoa in a large frying pan on medium heat on the stovetop with the extra virgin olive oil and mix. So in the ingredients list, which I didn't say ahead of time, I probably should have, is extra virgin olive oil. So this is the brand I'm currently using. This is available at a lot of local markets here in Arizona. I'm sure there are even better brands. I usually go for the PGI. However, I was limited and I usually go for what was harvested really recently. But I'm getting more and more limited as I'm not able to get into grocery stores lately. And that's a whole separate discussion. You can go on my other channel, Rainbow Healing and Wellness, to find out. This version will probably be aired on Rainbow Food Rocks, since I haven't put a recipe on there for a while. So please do check out my sister channel, which is also run by me, and it's Rainbow Healing and Wellness, and this channel is Rainbow Food Rocks. Okay, so just to go over your ingredients, I'll just read them all out loud before we begin, in case you're doing this with pen and pencil and you don't already have my book. And then what I'll do is I'll also post this recipe on Instagram, so you can go check me out at kajal.kaja.378. So that's KAJAL.KAJA.378 on Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's Kajal Kaja. Same spelling as before, just without the numbers. Okay, so the ingredients, just to go over, is 2 cups of cooked sprouted quinoa. I always sprout my quinoa, it helps with digestion. 4 easy peasy sweet potatoes, and I say easy peasy because of the way I described and how I like to make them. And those are on separate pages, the instructions. 1 16-ounce bag of frozen mixed bell peppers or 2 fresh bell peppers of choice. 1 yellow onion, which you already saw I have onion chopped up. 1/2 tablespoon of cumin powder. 1/2 tablespoon of turmeric powder. 1 tablespoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder. 1/2 teaspoon of saffron threads. 1/2 bunch of green kale, 1/2 bunch of purple kale. 1 cup of green olives, 2 avocados, some sea salt or nettle salt, and the recipe for nettle salt is on page 12 in my recipe book. You can also buy this at Ananda Farm Camino Island, which is in Washington. Highly recommend you check out their products. They're really awesome. And if they are doing CSAs, I would jump on that, by the way, if you're in Washington and you're near them. And then black pepper to taste. So we're gonna go ahead and put all those together. We'll cook it up. I'll show you how to plate it, and then we'll eat it. Yum! All right, let's go. So I'm gonna put this down. Let me just make some room here so I can read it to you while I'm working. So we're going to want to have the quinoa with the oil. So remember, for the oil, we are just doing 2 tablespoons. Now, I'm at the point where I can eye it. You'll probably want to measure it, but I do this so often that I can just eye this. And notice I'm using a large pot here. You can do a large frying pan. I'm doing a large pot because when I mix, then it won't spill all over. And I hate having more messes. I like to keep things pretty neat and simple. I have 3 kids, so you'll often notice that when I'm doing videos, I also have to balance talking to them. So I hope you don't mind, and I hope that you're understanding with that. Yes, I could go ahead and edit my videos. It does take time, and I'm not a professional at that. So remember, we're putting this on medium heat, so I'm going to have it on medium heat. And then I used to do this recipe with beef, like I mentioned. So if you are a meat eater, you probably want to go with grass-fed, grass-finished beef, and you probably want to go with a local farmer. So I'm going to start with the 2 cups and decide if I want to make a double batch or not. I haven't fully decided. I might want to save the rest of this quinoa for my quinoa bowls, which are really delicious as well. So I'll put that aside and I'll kind of gauge. But yeah, you can use beef, and that would taste lovely as well for those that eat meat. I personally don't eat meat. I do everything wheat-free, dairy-free, corn-free, soy-free, egg-free, peanut-free. It's vegan, vegetarian, and plant-based compliant. But I always tell the meat eaters that you can still do everything I'm doing and just add the meat in for the faux meats, I guess we can call them, you know, like pretend meats. I don't use soy, so there's nothing artificial in anything I do. There's no natural flavors, artificial flavors, dyes, colors. I mean, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't have the, I don't use gums. I don't use cane sugar. If I do, on the very rare occasion, use something with cane sugar, it would be to make something like an icing, which I haven't figured out how to do. I mean, I can try it with coconut sugar, but that's a separate discussion. So I'm just gonna mix that around. I have my spoon ready to go. And then if you were to do meat, which again, I'm not a meat eater, you would just want to break apart your ground beef. But for this, it's quinoa, and you can see it kind of looks like beef. And I know some people might get offended because I'm even mentioning the word meat, and you know, how dare I, but there are people that want to do these recipes that do eat meat. So I want to make sure that I'm not excluding anyone. I want to include all kinds of people from all different areas and walks of life. All right, so the second step is to add the bell peppers and the onions to the frying pan and mix. So we were going to do a 16-ounce bag. This one is 16 ounces, so I'm just gonna dump the whole thing in there. And this is so much quicker than chopping everything up like I mentioned before. And then for the onions, I happen to chop up 2 onions, so I have quite a bit here, so I'll probably just use half of this. This is a 4-cup Pyrex, and I do like to work with Pyrex and keep everything in glass. So I'll put that aside. I'm going to give it a little mix, which you can see right here. And you can already see all these beautiful colors. Now behind here I have a teapot of some tea. I do some homemade teas. And if anyone's ever interested in anything additional, I do have the ability to bake food here in Arizona. I have the cottage food home baker license. So I can make different pastries. Again, they would all be wheat-free, dairy-free, corn-free, soy-free, egg-free, yada, yada, yada. You know the deal. If you've been following me, you know how I cook and eat. Let's look at the next step. So we have assumingly destemmed the kale, which I already actually did. And so we're gonna do a half bunch of each. Now normally when you get a bunch, it's quite large. So I'm just going to eye it. When you cut yours up, you know, just divide it in half. And if you put a little more or a little less, it's okay. You can always go back and add something later. So I don't want people to feel like they're limited or like, oh gosh, I did that wrong. It's not a big deal. When you're cooking like this, it's not a big deal. When you are baking, that's when you really need to be very, very careful in your amounts, because you can completely ruin a recipe if you put too much of the wrong thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the kale in. Get some purple in here too. Now I've used some of this kale to make salads. You can go check out my other videos on rainbow healing and wellness. I'm showing for the whole week, and it might even last more than a week. I think I'm making 2 weeks worth of meals out of a $55 CSA basket. That is amazing. I mean, that beats any grocery store, and I'm supporting local farmers. So I highly recommend that people go ahead and do that. And if you can grow your own, that's even better, because then it's an even bigger savings, and just think about how much food you'll have. So the kale is in, and then, like I said, since I'm eyeing it, I'm just going to add a little more of the purple. I think that's kind of pretty. I'm going to show that up there. I've already used the onions too, so I'm going to put them back here. It just helps me keep organized, keep everything organized, and then I know what I have used and I haven't used. And then we're again going ahead to mix it up. Bring it easy peasy, and on medium heat. I'm gonna get a nice mixing in here. And I noticed that when I was cutting this, I didn't actually make these really small, so my hands are clean. I'm just gonna go ahead and break some of these up while it's still not that hot in the pot. You would want to chop them up a lot more. Sometimes I use things in different ways. So when I am preparing, I prepare in bulk for the week. So what I did was, when I got my CSA, I spent about, I'm gonna say, a good 3 to 4 hours washing and cutting and storing and planning for all my food for the week, which is going to, like I said, be 2 weeks worth of meals by the time I'm done with all this. And so I divided things in different Pyrexes, which I've shown on Rainbow Healing and Wellness. And then I made some things with them. I made some smaller portions for other events, and I left some things not fully cut. Like I had some collard greens, which I still have, that I actually started experimenting last night with taking my quinoa bowl contents, which is another recipe that I have actually shown. I've shown it on Rainbow Food Rocks on this channel. And so I put that in a collard green wrap and rolled it up, and it was really good. The only thing I didn't do, which I think I'm going to do the next time I try it, is put in some of my homemade salsa. And that's because I was getting to think about how when I make my, instead of how people eat BLTs, bacon, lettuce, tomato, I do DLTs. So it's like dulse, lettuce, and tomato. And the way I make my quinoa bowls, it kind of reminded me of my dulse, lettuce, tomato sandwich. By the way, my surface is clean, so I did a deep cleaning, so I'm just taking my little bits of quinoa and putting them back in. Obviously, if I were professionally cooking somewhere, I wouldn't do that, but I know that I sanitize this area, so I'm in my home, I'm doing that. I don't want to set a bad example for anyone, but when you're cooking in your home for your own family and you know your surfaces are clean, then you can do things like that. The other thing I want to mention too while I'm talking about cleaning surfaces is that I make all my own soaps and shampoos and cleaning agents, hand sanitizers, and I use my food grade high vibrational essential oils, which you can purchase from me. I'm going to make a Square store sometime starting in January. Right now I'm just doing it via email. It's kind of a pilot program to see how well they sell, and if they sell really well, then I'll continue with it. And I'm getting these oils from Nisarga Farms directly from India. It's an organic farm, and the only person in between the farm and me is my friend Krishna. So, and he is also a yogi. So I do clean with those oils. I use them in so many different ways. I can use them in recipes and foods and smoothies and ice creams, you name it. All right, let's look at our next instruction here. So we had done the quinoa, the oil, the bell peppers, the onions. We're cooking for 5 minutes. Now we're going to start adding some spices. So we're going to add the cumin, the turmeric, the oregano, the coriander, and the saffron. So I have the saffron in my hand, and if you've never worked with saffron, it smells delicious. It's great with rice as well, if you do eat rice and people are grain-free. So this is half a teaspoon. And I mean, I can show you with the teaspoon. I honestly have gotten to the point where I don't need to. I can just eye everything, but I'll still show you for the sake of showing you. Although I'll have to pull them out with my fingers here. They don't pour out very easily. So, half teaspoon. If you're making a mango lassi, that'll be a future recipe book of mine. The saffron works really wonderfully too. All right, so we got some saffron in there. Packed up. Saffron is kind of on the expensive side, especially for getting organic, but it's awesome. The next I'll do is coriander. And so for the coriander, we're going to do 1 teaspoon. Oops, that was a little bit more than 1 teaspoon. For me, I don't mind. Obviously, if I were cooking for someone else, I might be a little more careful, but I don't mind. Coriander is good for me. And I'm going to put these items over here actually, just so I don't get confused on what I have used and haven't used. So we'll stick these back over here, and then we'll look to see what else we need. So what was next? The oregano. We're going to do 1 tablespoon. So I'm using Mountain Rose Herbs, because you're curious about the brand. And I do like Mountain Rose Herbs, especially when I can't grow something and do it myself or get it locally. I'm just going to add a little bit more oregano than 1 tablespoon, and that's just my own personal preference, but for cooking for others, I would just do the 1 tablespoon. Oregano can kind of be a little strong, but it's great. It's a great antiviral. If you can get yourself oregano oil and use that when you're starting to feel sick, just 1 drop in water, that can be very helpful. All right, cumin. So let's move the oregano over here to stay organized. So cumin. We're going to do a 1/2 tablespoon. So actually, I'm going to go back to my tablespoon. Do a 1/2. I love the smell of cumin. Every time I smell cumin, it makes me think of Mexican food. I love different cultures and different languages, so anyone that knows anything about me knows I've studied many different languages, and I traveled as much as I could while I could until I had children. And so I love to experiment with different spices. You might notice that I'm putting certain spices in Ziploc bags on top of already having them in the bag, and that's just to keep it extra fresh for longer than usual, and also to avoid bugs. I don't have a bug problem, but I wouldn't want to have a bug problem, so it's something I adapted when I was younger. I lived in certain apartments, and they would get like ants and stuff, and I don't think the ants would go after the cumin, but I don't have any bugs, so we're good. But you do notice that I do extra. I have some extra protection there. The turmeric. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. So half a tablespoon of turmeric. And turmeric is a really great anti-inflammatory. So I highly recommend it for people that are working out a lot or have a lot of inflammation or have health issues, which, I mean, the root cause of a lot of health issues is inflammation. So if you can keep down the inflammation and eat foods that aren't inflammatory, you can really help your body heal itself. Starting to notice, and I'll show you the pot, how beautiful it colors this dish is looking. Can you see that? I haven't mixed it yet, but I just wanted to show you how beautiful it's starting to look. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that. And I'm going to check my other spices. I think I forgot the nettle salt and the pepper. And you know, oftentimes when I eat meals, I personally add dulse. There's no dulse in this recipe, but when I go sit down and actually eat it, I'm gonna put a little dulse over that. A few reasons why. Dulse pulls out heavy metals, and it also, which can detoxify, and also it has iodine. It's a really good iodine source. So for all of those people that are having sea salt and they're not having iodized salt, which I don't recommend iodized salt because it oftentimes has corn in it under the name of dextrose, I believe. Don't count me on that though, but I know it has GMO corn in most of the mainstream salt. I believe kosher is fine, sea salts are fine, but then you still have to figure out where you get your iodine from. That's the key there. All right, let's look at our next thing to do. Oh yeah, we wanted to do the nettle salt, which was to taste. So for me, I'm going to use the rest of this, and then I have another jar made up. So I make my own nettle salts. This is what they look like. And again, you can get this from the Farm Tomato Island as well. I think the Bothell Temple would sell these as well in Washington if you go to the Ananda organization. So I have to refill that one. And just looking at this, I'm going to add a little bit more because there's probably more nettle than there is salt here. And the nettle, a lot of people are always wondering, like, why is she using so much nettle and dulse? Nettle and dulse. Yummy. The peanut gallery saying yummy. I can't edit that out very easily either. Hopefully you guys don't mind that. All right, so the reason why I use the nettle is because it helps with the silica in the bones. It also helps with hair growth, nail growth, and what else does it do? There was something else that I wanted to mention that it does. I can't think of it right now. I think for men it helps with a certain gland or a certain area as well. I don't remember all the details off the top of my head. This is looking so beautiful. Look at all these gorgeous colors. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, the next thing here, oh, pepper. I almost forgot the pepper. So again, I'm putting everything in glass, as you might see. It's to taste, so I personally like a lot of pepper. I mean, not too much, like I'm not gonna dump the whole thing in, but I personally like a lot of pepper. I like spice. I'm a spicy girl. All right, so we got the pepper. There. I do a lot of tapping. Tap, 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 tap. I like to get everything off there. So I'm just gonna go check, make sure I have everything. Cook for another 5 minutes. Place all the kale in the pan. Oh, I see. I think I jumped a step and put the kale in a little early, but that's okay because it'll be nice and soft. Place the green olives in the pan. So I'm gonna put all these green olives in, warm those up. And you notice I drained the liquid. I should mention that. And this is the can, by the way, I'll show you. This is the can that I used. And I believe if you can't find it in the store, you can find it on Amazon. I do like to support local and small, but if there's something that I just can't find locally, then I will look on the internet for things. Okay, what else am I looking for here? So pretty much at this point, we're just gonna mix it, and then we're gonna put it over the sweet potatoes and the avocado, and I'll show you how to plate that. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this over. And I'm gonna be making some more recipes. Either today or tomorrow. I still have the borscht to make, which I have made a video in the past. I might just upload the borscht video to Rainbow Healing and Wellness. If I already have had it on Rainbow Food Rocks, I'll check. And then I'm going to be making an apple cherry pecan salad, which is quite lovely. I'll be using whatever beans I have left over in my fridge. And I'm trying to think, I think there's one more thing I have that I can make. And that should use up almost all of my CSA. I have pumpkin. I've been playing around making some pumpkin soups. I might make a pumpkin pie later, I'm excited. But the one thing I can tell you for sure is the apple cherry pecan salad. Stay tuned for that. And let's get this. This is almost all cooked. Let's get this covered so we can just cook a little bit faster. Pieces of quinoa. I'll get a plate for us to plate this. You can do a plate or a bowl. I'm actually going to go ahead and use a plate. Let's get something fancy for you. Let's make this a little thing. All right, here's my fancy plate. We are going to put this over the sweet potatoes, so I need to go ahead and warm the sweet potatoes. I'm going to use this. Okay, I don't want to mess up the pot. Increase the heat because I have this on really, really low so I wouldn't overcook. I have a habit of boiling things over. And as soon as I feel like this is warm enough, then I'll put this at the bottom, I'll put this at the top. We'll cover it in some avocado, and I'll take the first bite and show you how yummy it is. And while we're waiting, we can go ahead and cut another avocado just to kind of hold us over while that's cooking. So for avocado, if you've never cut an avocado, see, I hadn't even had an avocado ever in my life until 5 years ago when I started this journey of healing my children and then healing myself. So I had to actually learn how to cut an avocado. So it's kind of interesting. So when you cut it, I'll shift things around so that you can see what I'm doing. First of all, it's easier if you use a bigger knife. So I'm going to get this larger knife here. And you're going to just go straight in the middle there. And you're going to go just about halfway, and you'll find the pit is in there. So if I do it just right, I usually get the pit onto the knife, or close enough. This time I went a little slowly so that it comes right out. If it gets really stuck on the knife, that can be troublesome. And there you go. There's the pit. Now when I don't slice the pit totally in half, I save them. And so what you'll notice is here in the background, I have a bunch of avocado seeds that I've dried out. Isn't that cool? Along with a bunch of other seeds. And so I'm experimenting with growing some avocado in my garden. You can go on Rainbow Healing and Wellness and watch some of my garden videos. I still have more to upload. I keep saying that. I'm trying to get everyone up to date, but it's going back and forth right now. It's showing current time and then uploading the old ones from Rainbow Food Rocks. All right, so what I was just doing when I stepped off camera is I was actually, and I'll show you, this is a compostable bag. I was actually putting, so I don't like to waste anything. So I was putting all of my little ends and such that I'm not using to make broth. I was putting them in that bag. So that's where you saw me step off camera. I just wanted to explain that. But pretty much I try to use everything in one way or another. So this outside of the avocado here, you see it usually peels off quite nicely when they're really ripe. This one's kind of so-so. So you're just gonna peel the skin off before cutting it. I'll put this in the compost bin in the back, and then eventually that'll go into the garden as well. And I only do that right now with really like raw things or just like fruits and vegetables. I'm not doing it with any other paper products because a lot of these things are chemicalized. I don't want to mix that in my garden. Everything is chemical free. I'm not even using any fertilizers. I'm just using some soil that I got from the market and some soil that I actually got from Sing Meadows and Sing Farms because you can actually get soil there and they sell other products there. All right, so I'm going to put that in my compost bin. It looks like I'm dropping some on the floor here. Oy. And then we'll check that. We'll give that a mixing before we slice our avocado. And I had to rinse my fingers because I got avocado all over. All right, so let's do the mixing first. Oh, I waited too long. It's starting to stick to the bottom, but that's okay. We'll decrease the heat, and that tells us that we're pretty much ready and good to go for eating this. A little bit of scraping here. It's not burnt, which is good. Just delayed a little bit as I was chatting. All right, this is just about done. So let's actually turn the heat off on this so it doesn't burn anymore. Put that back in there. This is looking so, so beautiful. I'm going to show you what this pot looks like so you can kind of see the progress. Check it out. That beautiful color. All those colors are so nice. So again, I'm just going to chop my avocado. See, I'm slicing it first, and then I'll chop it. Slice, slice, slice. And then I guess I should say I'm cubing it technically. So you can see me cubing it. And I am a chef out of necessity, so if you haven't read my story, please go on www.rainbowfoodrocks.com and read my story. So I didn't actually go to chef school. I was actually a linguist who studied sociology and anthropology and philosophy of different religions and traveled a lot and came into this as a necessity to heal my children. All right, so let's plate this up. And along the way, I learned a lot, by the way. So we are going to make sure that this is warm enough. Let's test this. Sweet potato. Whoop. Oh, yes, popping out. Oh, that's good. Okay. Oh my God, sweet potato is so yummy. You don't even need sweetener. Like a lot of people for the holidays, they'll put all kinds of stuff on. Gosh, this is just so great by itself. All right, so I'll use this spoon, not the one I licked, just to set a good example here, because if I were cooking for someone else, I would toss that spoon in the sink. So you can see I have my sweet potato. Now, if you've made the full sweet potato and you just kind of partially mashed it, it's going to be a little bit thicker. That's okay. Thick, thin, it works. Tastes all the same. Let me go ahead and put that in the sink. I'm kind of dripping over here so I don't get all over the stove. Yum. And then we'll put this on top. So we're going to grab this. And again, the sweet potato is integral to the recipe. Please don't omit it because you need that sweetness to balance out, especially with turmeric and the cumin and the coriander. See, I'm just plating it on top like that. How gorgeous that looks. You can still see some of the orange is hiding at the bottom. And then the last thing I'm going to do is put some avocado on top. And as everyone always knows that follows me on social media, I like to take a picture of everything I eat. And you know what? I think that you can't really see what I'm doing. I just realized that. I apologize. So what I did was the sweet potato, and then what was in the pot, and then the avocado. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this. Hopefully it won't spill over. Please like, subscribe, share with like-minded people. If you like this recipe, let me know. If you've tried it, let me know. It's very, very unique. And I will see you on the next video.